The twin suns of Ethera hung heavy in the sky, casting long, accusing shadows across the endless sea of golden dunes. Raoul Carter, a man whose face was a topography of scars and regrets, squinted against the glare. He was trudging through a furnace, a mercenary stripped of illusions, driven only by the haunting memory of Marcus Vale, the friend he'd lost to a raider ambush that felt less like bad luck and more like a cosmic joke. In narratives of survival, guilt is often the heaviest pack one carries, and Raoul's burden was crushing. The horizon shifted, transforming into a wall of sand miles high, a storm racing with the speed of a predator. Seeking refuge in a rocky outcropping, Raoul stumbled upon an impossibility, a splash of vivid azure amidst the beige desolation. A girl, barely 17, half buried, her alien skin stark against the sand. Instinct screamed at him to conserve his resources. Compassion here was usually the death sentence, but looking into her desperate eyes, the mercenary faded, and the man remained. He offered his canteen, sacrificing his last precious sips of water. As the storm howled like a choir of the damned, they huddled together, strangers bound by a single act of grace. When the wind subsided, the girl, Elise, spoke of her escape from the diamond mines of Corvaris, a corporate hellscape where lives were ground into dust for profit. She was searching for help to free her mother, a woman named Lila. The name struck Raoul with the force of a physical blow. Lila, the blue-skinned love he had abandoned years ago, chasing credits instead of a future. Looking at Elise's features, the arch of her brow and the hue of her skin, the truth settled in his gut like lead. This wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. It was penance. Elise was his daughter. They journeyed to Broken Tooth, a settlement that clung to the canyon edge like a festering wound. The air smelled of cheap propellant and desperate vices. In the dim, smoke-choked light of the rusty nail cantina, they sought a pilot. They found Zara, a smuggler whose cybernetic implants pulsed with a rhythmic glow, and whose moral code was as flexible as her flight paths. But the shadows of Ethra held eyes. Bounty hunters tracking the price on Raoul's head turned the negotiation into a firefight. Blaster bolts sizzled through the smoke. Raoul, desperate to protect his newfound kin, drew the fire, sending Zara and Elise fleeing into the night while he sprinted into the labyrinthine alleys. Cornered and outgunned, Raoul prepared for the end, only to be pulled into the darkness by a ghost. Marcus, live, scarred, and hiding in the guts of an abandoned factory. He revealed a chilling truth. The ambush hadn't been bad luck. The corporation had orchestrated it, hunting Raoul to get to Lila, whose unique genetic traits made her tragically valuable to their twisted experiments. Reunited with Zara and Elise, the group forged a pact aboard Zara's ship, the Midnight Siren. They weren't just a ragtag crew, they were a family forged in fire. The plan was madness. Infiltrate Corvaris during a defensive grid blind spot. As they descended onto the industrial world, where smog choked the stars and machinery hummed a dirge, one can't help but reflect on how often the smallest sparks ignite the greatest infernos. They breached the mines through rusting maintenance tunnels, creeping into the heart of the beast. In the slave quarters, the air thick with misery, Raoul finally stood before Lila. Her eyes held years of pain, and her greeting was cold, a fortress built of abandonment. But there was no time for the luxury of reconciliation. Security forces swarmed the perimeter. Marcus, reclaiming his role as the demolitionist, triggered a series of hidden explosives, a chaotic distraction that shook the facility to its foundations. Amidst the smoke and screaming alarms, they boosted the weakened workers into the ventilation shafts, climbing toward the surface just ahead of the blister of laser fire. The escape was a blur of adrenaline. They boarded the Midnight Siren as the facility burned behind them, a funeral pyre for the corporation's greed. Zara pushed the engines to their breaking point, weaving through a chaotic asteroid field while corporate interceptors snapped at their heels. It was a dance of death in the vacuum, ending only when the stars stretched into the infinite blue streaks of hyperspace. They had done the impossible, but the story didn't end with their freedom. News of the daring rescue on Corvaris spread across the frequencies, a beacon of defiance. It inspired uprisings on 1,000 worlds. The corporate empire, once thought invincible, crumbled as the oppressed rose up to claim their dignity. 5 years later, the silence is different. On a quiet agricultural world, the twin suns set not on a wasteland, but on a garden. Raoul stands on the porch, watching Elise tend the soil while Lila prepares a meal inside. The scars remain. History is written on the skin as much as the soul, but the wounds have healed. They had defied fate, toppled an empire, and found the one thing more precious than credits: a home. In the end, even a mercenary can find redemption, provided he is willing to burn the world down to save what matters.